Jordan Peterson goes on Piers Morgan to lay out the case as to why he is supporting Trump in 2024. I'm Vince with Resist the Mainstream. If you've been enjoying our content, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And why should you subscribe? Because that way we can keep bringing you videos like this. And with that said, let's get into it.
Well, if I could vote in the American election, I would vote for Trump. And I don't trust Harris. Now, do I trust Trump? Well, he was president for 4 years. Like, look, the best predictor of someone's future behavior is their past behavior. If you're trying to hire someone and you have documented history of their efforts in precisely the domain that you're attempting to hire for, and the evidence is clear and valid, you use that in favor of all other predictive, what would you say, predictive markers. So I think it's more appropriate for me as a clinician who knows the psychometric literature to point out that independent of Trump's personality, which tends, by the way, to be a relatively weak predictor of behavior, it's intelligence that's the best predictor, and then personality. We have a documented track record. Okay, so what do we know about Trump? Well, as far as I'm concerned, we know this: decent economic performance, markedly stable international situation, no wars, plus, and that's something, no wars. Plus, he established the Abraham Accords, and they've held even after October 7th, and everybody in the State Department told the Trump administration that putting that agreement together was impossible.
That's exactly correct. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And when you look at the track record of Trump, what is there to say that's really so bad? Now, there's all the fear-mongering that Trump is going to be a dictator, he's going to end democracy, but we've been hearing those same things since 2016. Yeah, still waiting on that to happen. And remember the whole talking point about how Trump was going to start World War III, he was going to blow up the world? What happened to that? How come we haven't been hearing that lately? Well, it's probably because Trump's foreign policy brought us a lot closer to peace than the one of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So,
of course, it's the Abraham Accords that have infuriated and frustrated the bad actors in Iran, and that's pretty much the entire political class there, and fomented October 7th and produced this catastrophe that's unfolding. But putting that at the feet of Donald Trump is a very ill-advised thing to do. So I would say, with regards to Trump, well, we know what a Trump presidency would be like, but there's something else to consider too, because you might say, well, you know, that was round one and now it's round two and Trump is older. And although I think he's actually modified his behavior to some degree as a consequence of being beat up so thoroughly over the last 5 years, and although he's a bit defensive, he's also less blustery and more human, which I think is a big plus. But for me, the other thing that I've seen really switch that's really been positive for me is that Trump has pulled a lot of hyper powerful people together around him. Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy, Robert F. Kennedy, most of whom would have been Democrats in anything approximating a sane and normal world. And so, you see, my sense is that somebody whose narcissistic impulses are out of control, because Trump is a flamboyant and dominating character who likes the public light. So you think, well, you know, does he tilt too far in the narcissistic direction? It's like, well, why would he share the spotlight with the rest of this crew? And the other thing that we should consider is that, look, man, I would vote for Trump if for no other reason than Musk himself has already agreed to head something like a Department of Governmental Efficiency in the U.S. It's like, okay, enough said. You know, and then Kennedy is bringing the public health crisis into the political realm. And both those two things are revolutionary.
I would also say...
yeah, and that's the other thing I see from Trump's current coalition building is he's kind of rectifying the mistakes of the past, right? Because what did Trump do well in the first term? Well, economy, you know, he had decent immigration, he had very good foreign policy, but it was a little bit of a blind spot. You know, he said he would drain the swamp, didn't really touch it. But now the coalition I've seen, he's largely essentially burned the bridge with a lot of the same neocons that caused him so many problems the first time around. And he's brought in a very populist coalition. And of course, some hardcore Republicans will say, oh, well, RFK is a Democrat, Tulsi Gabbard is a Democrat, etc., etc. But that's exactly the point. They're not part of the uniparty, right? There's a lot of Republicans who are equally just as establishment and support the same exact things as the establishment Democrats. The fact that Trump is kind of defying them, arguably pissing them off, and I will tell you this, some establishment GOP is pissed off about the RFK alliance, for instance. That is a very positive sign that Trump's going to be more serious about this in the second term.
Swami seems to be... Go ahead.
Ramaswamy is a very smart guy as well. I completely agree with you on that. Also, I think that Trump has shown with these assassination attempts something very surprising that I suspect a lot of people would not have expected, and that is genuine personal courage. I mean, the first time when he was actually shot, to insist on getting back up and to punch the air defiantly was a remarkable thing to do. But I thought what even more remarkably was a week later, he was back on stage at another rally with an even bigger crowd, like nothing had happened. I spoke to him that night and he was, very gung-ho. I'm just going to keep doing it. They're not going to stop me. That is personal moral courage. I don't think you ever know whether you have it until it happens. And then you saw again with this latest one, he was cracking jokes immediately afterwards, saying, well, I wish I could have finished my birdie putt. The reaction, it's a quality of Trump that we haven't really seen until you see it. And you're never quite sure how people will respond when there are genuine threats to kill them. And he's actually been shot and then nearly got killed again. And yet he's back out there continuing with the campaigning. So whatever you think of Trump, I do think on the personal courage aspect, he's shown a lot of it recently.
Yes, grace under pressure, but also you pointed to something else, is that he was up cracking jokes. Hitler wasn't well known for his sense of humor. And the thing about Trump, and you can't deny this, Trump is a funny bastard.
Right.
He's funny. He'll say daring things just because they're comical. He's really good at it. And even his Twitter usage, his X usage, Twitter, of course, because he's not really using the platform now, impulsive, entertaining, unbelievably cutting and funny in a stand-up comedian sort of manner. And, that just doesn't go well with the tyrannical personality, because tyrants aren't well known for being able to tolerate the court jester. Let's put it that way. And so Trump is tough and funny. The other thing about Trump you got to think about too is, is he ambitious? Well, I don't think it's ambition that's driving his pursuit of this second term. I mean, first of all, Trump's an old man. And second of all, he's already president and he's as famous as you can get.
Yeah.
And you might say, well, his ambition is so overweening that, it's compelling him forward regardless. And I don't actually think so. I actually think that what happened was that Trump accidentally became president, shocked the hell out of him. And then he got some sense of exactly how unstable and corrupt the DC swamp had become. And he started to take the role seriously. And now I think he's taking it even more seriously. And that's part of why he's building this coalition.
Exactly. But you've heard that all a million times before. The last thing I want to say here in this video is that first point about the assassination attempt. A lot of conservatives complain that it's been wiped out from the national news immediately, and that's obviously true, right? The whole thing's basically been memory hold. But I will tell you the one place I don't think it has been forgotten, which is in the state of Pennsylvania, specifically that rural area around Butler, that is such a pro-Trump area. And if you want to talk about an election where turnout is going to be very important, I will tell you this. Again, nationally, the whole story may have been forgotten already, but in the rural part of Pennsylvania where that whole thing happened, I promise you, people there have not forgotten. You saw in the month of July and August, voter registrations, new registrations for Republicans shot up because of that. I think you can virtually guarantee that a lot of pro-Trump Pennsylvanians, especially in that part of the state, are going to make sure they're registered to vote, make sure they're turning out, because after what happened, they feel somewhat almost of a duty to do so because of that show of courage. Hey, he did that for us. He took the bullet. Okay, now we got to go out and support him. I'm telling you right now, that could make a huge difference in the election itself. himself. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. And until next time, I've been Vince with Resist the Mainstream. Peace.